Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of the Shooters Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Matt, at PostUp323. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, to us on YouTube, and also follow us on the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on the socials at Shooters Lounge 3. Today, again, another very special guest. It's been months in the making. It hasn't happened sooner due to my really poor organization skills, but we've got there in the end. We've got Jake, aka Fallen, founder of Sun's Planet podcast. Jake, welcome to the Shooters Lounge, bro. We finally did it.
We finally did it. I appreciate you having me on here, and I just realized I still have my work shirt on. No, I'm not from the European Space Agency. I apologize. That would be a cool job, though, wouldn't it?
That would be really cool, man. That would be really cool. But thanks a lot for coming on, man. We finally did it. So we're finally going to do this thing after months of just me. I apologize, just not sorting it out. And we said we were going to do it, and I'm going to.
I got one of those faces. People never like my face, so I totally understand it. 100%.
Some of us have only got a face for radio, mate.
That's right.
But how are things, man? Are we good?
Oh, well. I know you're going to be asking me about my Phoenix Suns, so I'm going to say we are.
Okay.
There's not a much better way to describe it. I'm coming in, as a diehard Suns fan that has wanted nothing more than for them to capture a title. Basically the Suns are, I don't know if we still hold that title, but we're that kind of calling card. But for the longest time, we were the winningest team in any American sports franchise or any sports franchise to never win the title. We win more games than just about anyone else, and we come up short. And the last 2 years have been difficult, going all the way back to being up 2-0 in the finals. And now here we are with some of the greatest players on our team to ever do it, and we're 500. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's good. There's positives, I'm sure. We're gonna get into them.
Yes.
It's not been a positive season though. Not based on where the expectations were.
How high were your expectations, Jake, before the season started? Where were you? Where were you at?
I would have said that better than last year, which I thought Coach Bud was going to have something that maybe Coach Vogel didn't. They said Coach Vogel was going to be much more of a player's coach in terms of kind of let them do things, but Bud was going to hold them accountable, and he was going to unleash. Everyone's been talking about unlocking the Phoenix Suns offense, so much offensive firepower, and you add a Tyus Jones, a great distributor, great ball handler, and Bradley Beal, Booker, and Durant have a full off season together. They've played a season together. They come into it healthy. Out of the gate, start strong, and then like a horse that is lame is just running around the track, and you're just like, what are you doing at this point in the season? It was we were like 8-2 out of the first 10 games. I'm like, look out, like we weren't blowing teams out, but I was like, we're a little older. We don't have to blow teams out. We just have to beat most of these teams on any given night. Yeah. And then the injuries started mounting up, and then I don't know if it's infighting or what's happening, but the latest news from like Yusuf Nurkic being like, don't worry, I'm not bringing chaos. This team has enough chaos. It's just like, man, you're supposed to keep that on the inside. It's kind of like when you're around like a family and they're like, my family's messed up. I don't bring any problems. And you're like, you're really divulging a lot about your own family though right now. I feel like I shouldn't be listening. But you can't kind of take your eyes away. There's too much talent on this team. And it's so disappointing to see at any given night, they're still trying to put it together.
Like you say, hovering above 500 is never a good thing, is it, Jake? Especially in the West, because it's a kind of a gauntlet, isn't it? Every night in the West, if you're playing somebody in the West, you're going to be for a tough night. You're not.
Well, 100%, and I think I guess we're going to have some positivity on this. We beat the Wizards just recently, one of the worst teams in the league, the worst team in the league. And we went, last I checked, like from the 10th spot to the 8th spot. So there is a log jam of like 10th to like 5th in seeding, only separated by a few games.
Yeah.
That's how competitive the West is this year. It's just frustrating that we even have to be there. Get us into the fourth spot. Get us into the third. That's where I wanted us to be. Something like that or even better. I did not expect the Houston Rockets to take off like they have, and I thought the Memphis Grizzlies might bounce back, but not in the way they did. So that's what's been frustrating is it's just like we're kind of clawing, and with our fingernails trying to stay relevant. And it's on any given night we still are. But, it's hard to imagine, oh, don't worry. Once we get to the playoffs, we flip that switch. No one will stop us. It's hard to buy into that theory that we were basically told was going to happen last year, resulting in a first round sweep.
Yeah, didn't end well last year, did he? Absolutely not. But like you say, the silver lining is, bro, is you put a few wins together and you will shoot up the standings, won't you? Like you say, it's pretty tight around that kind of middle of the conference, isn't it? So you put a few wins together and you can find yourself in fourth or fifth position, can't you? So there is a silver lining in there somewhere, didn't they?
It is, except if you're like a team like the Suns that also can lose to the Hornets and then drop to the 10th spot overnight too. So it goes the opposite way as easily. And
was that the low point, do you think?
That was, oh, wow. There was a few low points. That's a good question. What was the lowest? It might have been just the utter dismantling that the Nuggets gave us right around Christmas time.
Yes.
There was the no Luka Doncic Dallas Mavericks who, like, Kyrie shot like 7 for like 26. Don't worry, Mavericks still won. Like, it was just, there's so many games that just like when you think this team is building something, Bradley Beal looks like he's okay coming off the bench, or we're getting lights out Devin Booker back, or KD hasn't lost a step. Then there's still a game that just like the most recent clobber fest that we took from the Cleveland Cavaliers that showed us, no, you don't belong in the conversation yet. And so that's where it's at. It's just, and this team, this fan base, and I'm certainly just as guilty. And I know the Suns Jam guys, and I feel bad for them sometimes because they have to go live after every game and try and keep it together. I just go once a week, and I'm distraught most weeks. But to just like, we live and die with this team. We'll go out and we'll just put the hurting on a couple terrible teams or even a couple mid-tier teams, and we're like, all right, we're going to start building up again, and then somebody just like takes us out, and we're like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
And we're back again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the best victory then? You said the worst loss. Have you got a best victory? Have we got one?
No. There's things I could say like us beating down the Brooklyn Nets by almost 30. Like you could cite that.
Well, we haven't been doing that to a lot of teams, Jake. So maybe so.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like we actually, that's what I mean. Like I miss the old Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton. Like we would go up 20 points and the game would be over. We weren't going to lose the lead. It might come down to 8-9 points at some point, but we were going to be a few baskets ahead no matter what. And we had so many of those great games, especially, I mean, we were clutch fourth quarter. I mean, that was the time for the Phoenix Suns to shine. Last year, we're doing a little bit better this year. Last year, we were the worst at it. It was amazing how much the pendulum swung. There's a really lot more, like, that was a terrible game versus, wow, we did something really impressive there. And I think, again, that just speaks to the talent on this team. We had a good friend of the show, Juan Carlos Araneda from Suns Chile on this most recent week.
JC.
And,
shout out to JC, man.
Yeah, he had a great point. It was just basically like, and I'm going to butcher the saying now too, but basically, when you bring great pieces together, the sum, the team is going to be worth more. Basically, it's going to be able to all hum. We have more expensive parts as individuals than we do as teams, and that's the problem right now. Is we've got great players. Even Bradley Beal is still a great player. On this team, he's just not a great player. And you need the team to win, not just individual great players. So that's the challenge right now. Is as Bud does not have a relationship with Nurk. I'm guessing Nurk won't be here much longer. who knows what's going to happen at the trade deadline. I've heard the Knicks are involved, the Bulls, the Bucks, the Heat. I mean, I think everyone is involved at this point.
Yeah, a lot of rumors out there, man.
Yeah.
A lot of rumors out there at the moment. 100%, yeah. I think also today, Jimmy Butler's now been suspended indefinitely by the Heat, so that's another wrinkle now that he's probably played his last game for Miami. I think it kind of might take him to the end of the after the trade deadline. I think he might be on his way out.
It's amazing how that saga has played out a little bit. I was able to catch a little bit of sports talk radio today at work, and they were calling, oh, what a drama queen, Jimmy Butler is, and how dare he do this? And I thought, he's got some real legitimate points though. Like, did he kind of drag them to 2 finals appearances? I think so. I don't think it was Tyler Hero doing it. You could argue maybe Bam, but he was a big contributor. They basically asked him to become the 3rd option this year. They're still kind of a 500 team. They're not bad enough and they're not good enough. And they've kind of continued to move away from him. And he wanted out. They said, hey, you're suspended. They bring him back. And then he plays a little bit. And they're like, you know what? We're going to put you on the bench. You're going to be on the bench until we trade you. Or you'll play a little bit maybe, but we're going to start Highsmith over you. Like, I'm sure, any one of us, if we walked into work someday and we're just like, hey, I want things to change. And they're like, actually, you're getting demoted. Sucks to suck. You might just laugh and walk out too and just be like, all right, let's see what happens next. So I'm not saying his behavior is acceptable. There's some people saying, oh, do you want that on your Phoenix Suns team? I don't think that Jimmy Butler does something like that in front of a Kevin Durant. I think he can do that in front of a Tyler Hero and be like, yeah, look, I'm better. I'm the best on this team. Yeah. He's going to have a harder time saying that. And from what I've been reading, he looks at if I'm going to be the 3rd option, I'd rather go be the 3rd option on the Phoenix Suns team, meaning he already thinks, okay, Durant and Booker can score. I can score when necessary versus all the other teams that he's kind of had these, bad attitudes with. At some point, he's usually the star. You can make the argument maybe the 76ers, but Joel Embiid is a whole nother story into himself. Can he stay healthy? And, and a post player a little bit different than somebody on the wing and in the backcourt. Yeah. So I don't think Jimmy Butler is this crazy hothead as much as some other people are kind of drawing him out to be.
I mean, he's never left a team on good terms, which is it's never a good thing, is it really? But I don't like the idea of big 3, Jake. I don't know about you, mate. I've never kind of, in terms of roster construction in this day and age now, I don't think the big 3 kind of works. You take up too much salary and you have very limited left to build the rest of your roster. And you think of the good teams that are out there now, they've got 1, maybe 2, superstar, quote unquote, superstar players. And then, they've got enough then to build that kind of second unit around them. I think the era of the big 3 for me, I think, is over. And building, that was the worry for me with Beal. We kind of backed ourselves into a corner, and that, once the Beal trade was made, it was like, this better work or else there's no real way out of it. So, because Beal holds the cards, doesn't he, with no trade clause, right. And once you trade for somebody like that, it's literally do or die, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. We talked a little bit about this on Suns Planet back around Christmas time, and it was it's funny because I was a big fan of the big 3 before the league decided to change the rules and really clip all these teams and be like, oh, you're at the second apron. You can only send out 1 guy at a time. Yeah. You lose your draft picks if you stay over this too long. It was like for years, the Suns fans have been like, if we had an owner that would spend big. And Sarver didn't spend low, but he wasn't like a top 10 guy in terms of spending it. And it always just seemed like the teams that were willing to spend the most, pay as much into the tax, the Golden State Warriors, the LA Lakers, that was what you wanted to become so that you could remain competitive and compete for titles year in and year out and build dynasties. The Suns finally get that. They pull some triggers. Ishbia comes in and goes, we're doing it. We're doing it for the fans. He does so many great things that the fans love out of the gate. And then the league's like, by the way, we're changing the rules. Big 3s are dead. And so, you know, it's the basketball gods don't like the desert, man. I don't know what it is. Like if Prometheus stole the fire and he did it out there in southwestern United States, maybe that's where it all took place. I don't know, but the basketball gods just do not like the Phoenix Suns. They clipped us just when we decided to play ball and adapt to the rest of the league. The acquisition of Bradley Beal was the one that I don't regret, just because as much fun as that Chris Paul and, you know, Booker, Bridges, Cam Johnson, the whole 9 yards team was, we started to see the Chris Paul slowdown, where in the fourth quarter, man, he looked like me running around trying to chuck up shots after like 5 minutes of playing. And we were asking him to be the second, third option on a championship team. You know,
there's a lot of tired legs out there, weren't there?
Oh, exactly. And, you know, he ends up going to the Wizards in the trade and quickly has moved to the Golden State Warriors, where he comes off the bench, has a solid year. Right now he's starting, but, you know, they don't need him to play 35 minutes because they're not trying to win a whole lot of games. They need him to play 28 and make Wemby look amazing, and they're accomplishing that. So I don't think keeping Paul, and people forget what his contract looked like too, was going to make us that much better. And so acquiring him for like second round picks, getting rid of Paul and the Landry Shamet contract, and with some second round picks for a 30-point a game scorer in Bradley Beal, I was kind of that persuasion that's like, I don't care how it's going to fit. This is just a better player in general. That's what I thought back then. I still would do the deal now. Yes, the no trade clause, now that we know that it doesn't work, that seems like the worst deal in the world. But, you know, I feel like if we didn't have a Devin Booker on this team, nobody would be complaining about the Bradley Beal deal because we wouldn't be looking to move him. But we've just realized that you can't have Booker and Beal and Durant and Tyus Jones all on the court together, because that's two above average defenders and maybe one is an okay defender and one is a below average defender. But just on any given night, you're just not going to stop enough scoring and to get the job done. And so, you know, I think Beal's just the better player. And I think if he goes somewhere, he's going to show us that again, if he can stay healthy. So to me, that wasn't the deal that broke our backs a little bit. And the controversial thing that I always say, and I think among Suns podcasters, I'll probably just take this on and say it's true. I'm probably the hardest on Kevin Durant of the Suns podcasting community, because I look at him as you are one of the top 5 greatest players, certainly in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I
expect you to carry a team through wins at this point, even though he's a little bit older. And he doesn't really do that. And you know, I get that he's older. You know, 10 years younger Kevin Durant might be able to. But that's the frustration that I have with this team, is that our best player can't just drag us through victories anymore. And that's why I still kind of say it's Book's team. And the way Book's been playing, I think it's evident of that. He had a rougher start, but like Kevin Durant is a great player. But we gave up so much to acquire him, like 4 first-round picks, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder. Like, there's arguments to be made on the Chris Paul for Bradley Beal deal. There's arguments to be made for DeAndre Ayton, for Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
That Durant one really shook the team. We thought it was going to pan out great. Durant has been a great player. But as we talked about, you need the whole team to win.
If a player like Kevin Durant's available, though, Jake, you've got to do it, haven't you? As much as I miss,
that's why I'm not at all unhappy with this, you know, front office right now. Like, some people are like, "Oh, fire James Jones," and then James Jones goes out and gets Nick Richards, and we're like, "Oh, James Jones gets it." You know, Matt Ishbia. Like, I read something with the regards to Matt Ishbia just recently, and they said he's the worst, governor, NBA team owner in the NBA, even worse than James Dolan of the Knicks, who, like, the fans even hate Dolan. Because he like throws you out if you don't cheer appropriately. No, I do not like the man that invented the $2 hot dog and $2 soda at a professional sporting event.
How can you hate that guy?
No, exactly. The guy that brought Sean Marion and Mari Stoudemire into the Ring of Honor. No, This guy's doing everything that the fans dreamed of, trying to make it more accessible to watch the games. And going like, big game hunting. He's like, yeah, go get Kevin Durant. I'm the brand new owner. Let's do something immediately with a big splash. Beforehand,
I think some of
imagine a player this good on our team.
No, yeah, exactly. I think some of the fans forget the dark days of 2014, 15, and do you know what I mean? It's like, and we're talking about Kevin Durant, and it's like, hey, mate, come on, it's
Dragon Bender is the next Kevin Durant. He just needs time. Wherever he is in the world, he just needs time. I think he's in Israel maybe right now. I looked it up the other day.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been worse, hasn't it, Jake? I do have some nights where I'm like, I do miss the Twins. I'm not going to lie. There are some nights where you're like, oh, man, it'd be cool having them guys on the team again. But
it's hilarious because I was thinking about this the other day, and it's kind of like those 10 years of terribleness where, like, you're with the girl, and she's your girlfriend, and she's kind of, maybe she's a 5 or 6, and but you have fun, and it's fun to hang around her. She wears sweatpants a lot. She lets you be a little bit lazy. It's all right. You don't have high expectations. Then you go out with a 10, but she kind of makes your life hell.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh my god, I don't know if I can keep up with this. This is just painful. But she's 10. That's the Kevin Durant era of the Phoenix Suns. Like, she's 10 though. But then you sit back and you're like, when I was with 5, things weren't that precious. Like, oh, we lost again. It's okay. It's a process.
Yeah,
we were on a timeline. We had the timeline. There's no timeline. It's win right now. Everyone's getting too old.
I think that's it. When you've got a player like Durant and the age that he's at, the pressure is on, isn't it? To try and compete to be in that kind of elite kind of tier, isn't it? When you've got a player like that, the pressure's always on to kind of hopefully be there, but unfortunately, it hasn't happened, does it? So far,
we're seeing it with the Golden State Warriors right now, a team that also had higher expectations, and they won the finals 4 years ago.
21. Yeah,
was that the most recent one? Yeah, I mean it's not that long ago, and right now they are, I think, 11th in the West.
Yes,
and and so everyone's like, what do they do with Steph Curry? Still a phenomenal player. He's the Kevin Durant for us. And I actually had a trade scenario where I was like, send Kevin Durant to Steph Curry, and let's take everything we can to fleece the Warriors. Some people got upset with that one. But I was like, just let them have like one more shot, Draymond and Steph Curry, and they can have some fun together. But no, I think, that's what you're seeing, is that when you have a player that's historically a historic talent, you only get so many shots to win it all, and you sell out to do it. And that's the deal of it. I mean, you go back to Phoenix Suns teams before Devin Booker, Goran Dragic, Eric Bledsoe, Isaiah Thomas, our 3-headed point guard dragon. I couldn't even tell you some of the other players on those teams, but like, it was clear, even though I think we went like 40-42 that season.
Yeah,
we weren't building. When there was a year where like Luis Scola, I think, and Michael Beasley were like our top players. We were not like, oh, maybe we just really play well, we're going to win it. It's those were years where we're just like, it's part of a process. Let's see if there's some players that might be good a year or two from now on this team. And that's the tough thing, is that we're going to raid the cupboard again here at the trade deadline. We just acquired some more first-round picks, by giving up our unprotected one. And I would not be shocked if we get rid of all of them, all the second-round picks. Just go down with the ship.
It's Spears going all in again, man. It's going all in again. Chips are going in. Aren't they?
I've been leaning Dervish of Whirl, Paul from Fanning the Flames podcast is kind of in agreement with me. I'm closer to not blow it up, but retool. And again, that's the controversy, is I would trade Kevin Durant to try and expand the Devin Booker window and lengthen it again. Some people, John Voida of Suns Champs, like, absolutely Booker would say, I'm out. I disagree. I think if you get some more first-round draft picks, and some quality players back, maybe Book sees where it's going for a couple of years. But that's kind of where I'm at. But I think what's going to happen, that's where my heart is. Where my head is I think the team's going to sell out in a good way. Well, maybe not in a good way because I disagree with it. But they're going to do everything they can to get Jimmy Butler to the Valley to make this team competitive for the next year or two.
Okay. I think there's going to have to be a couple of other teams involved in this for it to work. I think it's not.
Well,
it's
the whole
not
league's involved at this point.
It's not only the thing with Beal is it's not only getting somebody willing to take him. It's him willing to relinquish the trade, the no trade to go. It's like a two-step process, isn't it? Not only have you could get teams who are tanking and willing to take on that salary for a couple of years because they're in a bit of a rebuild or whatever. But is Beal going to want to go there? That's the speed bump as we've been at, which the Butler trade would have probably been done by now, wouldn't it?
100%. Yeah. If they had wanted Beal, I think Beal wouldn't dislike Miami. I think he'd like Miami. But you're right. It's 100%. It's a little bit like I'm going to use another dating analogy here, but you found the girl you really want to date. She's got a less attractive friend. You're asking your friend if he'd go and talk to her while you talk to the one you want to talk to. And Bradley Beal's your wingman. And he's like, nah,
I'm good.
I'm not going to do that.
You're on your own, dude.
Agree to everything right now. And that's the challenge. I've seen so many of these trade ideas. I don't know. If I'm a Bradley Beal, I would go to like a Milwaukee. I think him with Dame Lillard and Giannis might actually make them more competitive. Obviously, it depends, of course, what they give up. But Chris Middleton has been just a shell of himself since their championship win. And
when you start having surgeries on both ankles, mate, it's never a good thing, is it?
No, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, part of his skill set is based on his athletic ability, and it's getting reduced each season with wear and tear. Now, Dame Lillard used to play with...
killed us in the finals, didn't he? In 21, man killed us, didn't he?
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
That's what I mean. And so, but he's not like that anymore.
No, he's not that guy anymore.
No. But so Dame Lillard used to play with C.J. McCollum a lot in Portland, and they had a lot of playoff appearances. They didn't go super far together all the time, but they also didn't have somebody like Giannis down low. They had Yusuf Nurkic, which we know about. He'll rebound you some shots, but he's not going to do much else. Giannis will rebound it and then dunk through three other players on his way to an and one. I think if I'm Bradley Beal, I take the chance. I know you're based in the UK, so let me give you a breakdown. Milwaukee's cold. There's not a ton of people that live there. There's a lot of beer in the state. So that's a plus. It's not. It's not
cold, especially this time of year, man. This time of year, it is cold.
Oh, it's worse than it is here. I got snow on the ground outside. It is 10 degrees colder, and it's almost freezing here, or it is just barely freezing here. It's kind of like, I would say, Utah Jazz level of destination locations. So the only time somebody wants to go to one of those cities is if you have a John Stockton, Karl Malone, or a Giannis on the team. Then you're like, oh, I'll go play in that city. Otherwise, you're not like, you know what? I really want to go to Milwaukee. So that's the tough thing. But I think Beal could be a major piece to making them competitive. In the East, they're in the 4th spot.
They've rallied, haven't they, Milwaukee? They kind of started slow, didn't they? So they've kind of rallying. Last 10 games, I think they're 8-2, I think.
But they're not good enough right now, is how I would describe them. The Cavs
to compete for a title, they're a move away, aren't they? I think,
And so, we talk about all the time with the Suns. Just anytime in the NBA, it's almost better to be terrible than it is to be mid-tier.
Yeah, the middle's no use to you at all.
Exactly, unless it's mid-tier, you might get lucky. Like matchup based, you have a shot. It's what our Suns fans keep telling ourselves, like, oh, in the right matchups, Kevin Durant, we might steal a series and then move on.
How many moves away are we, though, Jake? That's the question.
Puncher's chance. Yeah. But there's other teams like,
I suppose the way to do it was how Dallas did it last year. They made a couple of moves at the deadline, and then they kind of
were not splashes at all. Yeah.
Not really, but obviously they had Luca and Kyrie already, which is
Mhm.
just a couple of moves. But we're kind of out of options, mate. We've
Right.
we've pushed all our chips in, and we've got
We
no
can't
moves left, kind of
rearrange
thing.
the chairs on the deck of the
Yeah.
Titanic and say we're not going to sink, right? And by that I mean
Yeah.
a Royce O'Neal for a something or other is not going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Grayson Allen gets mentioned a lot because he's a valuable player on a tradable contract. No,
Yeah.
this is we need a engine overhaul type player to make sure that we have a shot. It doesn't get us into the top 3 overnight, especially overnight. But maybe you could argue a Booker, Butler, Durant led team get you that puncher's chance. You could go into the playoffs saying, if things go right, if somebody's injured, or matchup dependent, like we could win some games, we could steal some series, and maybe we find ourselves in the finals. That's a possibility. If you're a team like, I don't know, the LA Clippers probably right now, who are ahead of us in the standings.
Yeah.
I haven't heard them mention as much in the trade discussions.
Not
I
at
don't
all.
think that they have a chance to win the finals. Matchup dependent. I would say mid-tier, no puncher's chance. I'll put it that way. I just don't think that you can have Norman Powell as we're about ready to set off and face him in a couple hours here.
Man's averaging 24 a game.
No, yeah, but you can't have that. You can't win a title with Norman Powell as your lead scorer.
They've always got that. They've always got that Kawhi carrot, though, haven't they, to dangle in front of themselves? Haven't they?
And
I mean,
there's a Clippers podcaster out there right now, like puncher's chance. If Kawhi's healthy, yeah, we've got a chance. Yes, no, that's true. That's true.
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, fans try and talk themselves into, it's not as bad as what we think, and all that. But I don't know with the Suns. I think we're going to talk about disappointments and surprises later. I mean, I think the Suns are probably going to be in the disappointing realm, unfortunately. But I hope Coach Bud doesn't regret taking the job anyway. But
yeah, I mean, he's got to be thinking it now, right? But who knows? Maybe he needed the money. I don't know. I do tell you what, who's really enjoying it is Coach Vogel as he sits on the as an assistant coach in Dallas, looking on from afar. Like, I told you guys, it wasn't easy. I tried to get them to play together.
It wasn't just a point guard that we needed. No, it wasn't.
My God,
it was way more than that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And everyone being like, oh, Bud's gonna unlock the offense. I don't even know. Are we maybe a little bit better? Defensively, we're worse. Vogel was supposed to be the defensive guy, and maybe he did. And I think the argument was that he just played slower. So, it's harder to score more points when there's less time on the clock. Easier for the older guys to get back on defense, I guess. But yeah, it's for the coaches. I've been kind of disappointed with the Bud experience. But I don't put it all at his feet. At this point, this is the third coach in 3 years.
Yeah.
At some point, the players, you just have to look at them and say, you guys just don't fit together that well. And that's okay. I don't know. Are you a wrestling fan at all, man?
I used
old
to follow
school
it.
days?
I used to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, WCW versus WWF back in the 90s was the thing to watch on television. And I was a WCW kid. And so I was, the NWO, Wolfpack, Hulk Hogan, Sting, the whole 9 yards. A lot of the problems with that product ended up being that they gave a lot of the authority to the wrestlers. And they started booking things that only made them look great. And this has kind of come out more and more over the years. But like Hulk Hogan didn't ever want to lose. Or very rarely, taking bumps and stuff like that. They just basically wanted to show up, party in the ring, and then like beat the heck out of some guy and be like, yeah, NWO for life.
He had final approval, right? Didn't he?
Exactly. Final approval.
So is Hollywood Hogan Bradley Beal? Is that what we're saying?
It's 100% yes. He had a no wrestle clause. No, like if he didn't want to wrestle that night and do anything impressive, he didn't have to. But no, I still remember it was always like there were some great characters in those story arcs. Like I said, Sting, Diamond Dallas Page was a big personality at the time. And it usually just ended the night with like the NWO coming out in the black and white shirts, taking over the ring, people throwing trash into the ring because they thought somebody was going to actually wrestle and there was going to be a big like match to determine something. No, they just cheated. The ref said, "Oh, disqualification, doesn't matter. We just beat the heck out of these guys." And so I mean, the problem is it's just that the Suns with these players, you give so much respect to a Devin Booker, a Kevin Durant. Maybe they're just not the best at building teams. Michael Jordan went to the Washington Wizards. The Wizards didn't do anything. He's, the greatest of all time or in the top 2 or 3. Maybe he just doesn't know talent. His role with the Charlotte Bobcats did not do anything. Charlotte Hornets the same.
Wasn't a great owner either.
Exactly. So maybe it's just that like, hey, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, what do you guys want? Go out and get me Bradley Beal. Like maybe they just, don't know how to build a team. And that's okay. Some of the best jobs I've ever had were with people that I wouldn't want to like hang out with every Friday and Saturday night. But I'm just like, you know what? That weird guy that's really good at accounting, he makes sure that I get paid on time. I like that guy. I don't want to hang out with that guy, but I like that guy.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to find out. Maybe the Suns can pull off a move at the deadline, make a couple of trades, but we'll have to wait and see. So, just kind of moving along, Jake. Can you give us a kind of how did the Suns fandom begin?
Sure. Yeah, with the Dragon Bender era. No. No, I like so many in my age group. It was the Charles Barkley experience. So I'm an 87 baby. And so 93 was the finals run for the Suns versus the Bulls. Sure. And I still remember like, when you're 5'6", you don't have like super vivid memories, or at least I don't. It's more like, oh, I remember this thing. I don't remember anything else from that year. And that's kind of where it was. But I remember I was walking into the store. I was with my mother and my older brother. And my older brother, I would have been probably about 6 at the time. He was probably 9. And he said, "Hey, Mom, did you hear the news?" And she goes, "What's that?" The Phoenix Suns and Charles Barkley just beat Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And I thought, you know what? I've lived so long on this planet, 6 years old. I know that Michael Jordan's the best. Charles Barkley beat Michael Jordan. That means he's the best. I'm a Suns fan for life now. And I said, let's lock that in and torture myself for the rest of my life. I did not realize it was a best of 7. I thought it was just 1 game wins it all, because every movie was always like, you got to win this 1 game. So, of course, I thought that that's what it was. I locked it in. And even though I'm from Iowa, it just basically, like, thanks to the internet and AOL, like, I was able to find news and stuff like that from Phoenix, because we're not close to them geographically. So it's not like, if we were getting a local game, it would have been the Chicago Bulls or the Minnesota Timberwolves would have been like the local games on TV. And so getting them on a national broadcast was always special, but it was rare. And so it really just took, like, by the time I was putting in all this research and stuff into the team, I was like, well, I put in so much work, I might as well stick with them. So, even when Barkley ended up going to the Rockets, I was like, I think the Suns are still my team. And, the Jason Kidd era. And then we went through Backcourt 2000, when it was Jason Kidd and Penny Hardaway. And then, of course, the Matrix shows up. And, I remember watching some of those games. We had some fun teams. I still remember us getting Jake Sakalidis. And, of course, being a Jake, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be the greatest player of all time. And he was like a 7'2" Georgian who played in Greece, if I'm not mistaken. We took him like 17th overall, something like that. Either way, I was like, he's going to shut down Shaq. He didn't shut down Shaq. Everyone in the early 2000s was drafting these gangly European guys who were 7 feet tall to show up and be like, hey, we want you to stop the biggest, most dominating force in the post, maybe ever, certainly in this generation. They're like, we don't even speak English. Sounds great. We're here to play. So that was like the early European invasion players. And so I rolled through that, though. And then when we got the 7 seconds or less, Steve Nash, playing with the Matrix. And then, of course, Amari Stoudemire. I remember him with Starbury for a season before we ended up getting Steve Nash. Man, those were the prime years. So I started with Barkley. Really, I'd say the most enriching moments of being a Suns fan were those 7 seconds or less teams. Grant Hill, Quentin Richardson, Raja Bell, Boris Diaw, and it was just, and the battles we would have against the Mavericks and the Spurs. Oh my gosh. It was like going up against Tim Duncan, Mr. Fundamentals. And I was just like, oh, just Amari, just rebound this next shot. We got him. And Kurt Thomas was pretty solid. I always liked how Kurt was playing the Spurs back then. And we just always felt like we were just, we were always just one hip check away. From getting,
I still hate Ori now because of that. I still hate that guy. I'm like,
did you know? Oh gosh, there was I think it was Justin from Fanning the Flames, but I forget the name of it. But when you can there's some Cameo. Are you familiar with Cameos?
Yes.
And I think Robert Ori went up on Cameo. And was taking money from people. And I think it was Justin from Fanning Flames paid him to say, "I'm sorry, Steve Nash." Greatest cameo ever. An apology went so far for us to have seen that. But and then the decade of despair. So I've been through the good years, the bad years, and now the mediocre years again.
Well, yeah. I mean, anything's better than the mid 2000s. I think mid 2010s, man, for sure. But that 2010 run was the improbable kind of conference finals run where we lost to the Lakers. That was kind of an improbable run. I don't think anybody thought we were going to get that far that year. An aging Grant Hill kind of giving it one last go, trying to guard Kobe.
And I still remember in the interviews, I thought he was super bought in. Maybe he was. At least he was very professional about it. In the interviews I've seen since then, he's like, yeah, Coach D'Antoni was telling me to go shoot corner threes. I was never a three-point shooter. I'm like, Grant, I thought you loved it. You had such a good role to play. Good defender, not great, but good.
He did have a nice little renaissance to end his career, didn't he, at the Suns, to be fair? 100%. Yeah, because, at one point, Grant Hill was going to be the next guy, the next face of the league at one point, wasn't he? In the late 90s and stuff. So, and just too many injuries, just kind of what if careers, isn't it? 100%. And
here's a throwback. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think it was that Lakers series. But do you remember who the starting center was for the Suns?
Oh, in 2010.
I think so. I think it was during that series.
I thought Stoudemire was playing the 5 back then.
He might have, but I think it was. It was one year. It was 1 year when we were playing the Lakers in the playoffs. So it might not have been 2010, but I think it was Jaron Collins. And we'd have Robin Lopez come off the bench. And I used to sit there and scream at my TV because they would play Jaron for 5 minutes and then bench him.
And then go,
for the rest of the game. And I'm like, what's the purpose that he's bringing? Are we teaching Robin Lopez that you're just a slow starter? I did not understand it at all. A young Robin Lopez was a little athletic. He could do some stuff. Jaron Collins was just out there just taking up space. It wasn't passing, it wasn't shooting, it was a defense. I was just guys, we don't have to play him. He wasn't really doing it. I don't think he was getting more than 10 minutes a game when he was starting. In those,
was this a contract thing?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't even know if it was that. It was just I just remember please just play Robin Lopez. Just let him have it. And because I think what it was we knew Amari was going to have a harder time with the bigger centers, and we wanted him to just go off from the 4 position. And so you want a big guy to be able to throw some screens and on occasion, and of course just rebound, because that was kind of Amari's kryptonite a little bit. It wasn't the worst at it, but 8 a game. You're always hoping for more from him.
Always wanted more rebounds off Stoudemire, right?
Because you always thought if he got the rebound, he would just slam it right back in over somebody.
You can't give me 10 rebounds, man.
No.
Come on. You're always in that 8.5 range. You can't get me 10 boards, bro. Come on, man.
And those Maverick series where I was okay, Dirk Nowitzki versus Amari rebounding. No, they would play. Oh God, what was his name? Savannah Diop, I think Diop.
Yeah.
I think he was from Senegal or something. Either way, he was a big dude, and it was his stats look terrible through the regular season, and then they play the Suns, and he'd be like, I'm going to get so many rebounds because there's no way I'm going to let Amari Stoudemire or Boris Diaw. I think it was like Eric Dampier and Diaw.
Dampier, yeah.
And it was just like these two slow plodding guys, but our athletic fours playing the center position were just like, I can't get around him in time to get a rebound.
That's pretty much what was happening as of the start of this season. We were just getting out rebounded by everybody.
100%, yeah.
Hopefully Nick Richards has plateaued some of that, maybe, but I don't know how long he can keep that up for. But
yeah,
nearly getting 20 rebounds, man. That's work. You're doing work, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know,
it's not Yusuf Nurkic getting 30 though. No, you know what it is? I think because I was a little nervous, so I was like, I think Nurk is a better rebounder. It might have just been because Nick was a backup for the Hornets, and then he was always on a bad team too. Like, I mean, it's rebounding's an effort stat, and now that Nick's on a good team, he has an incentive to show out, and he's starting after his first game for the Suns, and so he's like, let me show you guys what I can do. You want somebody to dunk it, lay the ball in the hoop if they're 5 feet away, and rebound. I can do those things. And
I can roll to the rim.
I'm excited to do it for you. Yes, as opposed to for the Hornets, where it's like, we'll still lose by 10. I'll do my best.
Even on the first game against the Pistons, it literally just come off the plane, and he was doing exactly what we needed somebody to do.
Setting a record doing it. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's like roll to the rim, finish, rebound. This is it. But. Hopefully, I don't know if it's going to move the needle too much as it when it's all said and done. But it was just nice to have somebody out there who actually cared about rebounding and
well, and nice and actually try and rebound. Like again, Nurk's lack of athleticism. I mean, it's. Even if he lost 50 pounds, he's not going to become like much faster or something like that. But that's what's tough in the modern NBA. There's so much outside shooting that you get longer rebounds. And so if he's not in position, then you just see this big guy throw up his arms like, oh, it's way over there. Whereas Nick Richards is like, wait, let me slide my feet a little bit. I might be able to move my body and go get it. And if Nurk if it came right to Nurk, he was going to get it. He was like a black hole. He would get that rebound. Nobody else is going to get it. We need a little bit more on this team because, Kevin Durant has never been a prolific rebounder. No. Neither has Book. You can't count on Tyus Jones to go get you some rebounds. So, we needed somebody that has a little bit more lateral quickness and that still has that high motor, and so we got that with Nick. He's impressed me very much so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe you can keep the streak going, double streak going or something.
Let's see. Who's it? Zubac on the Clippers. He's tough, man. He's like
having a good
one
year.
Of the most underrated centers I feel like in the league. He's absolutely. Just a solid player.
Yeah, he has his role and he plays it very well. It'd be a good matchup tonight between them two. There'll be some hustling going on between them pair, I think, tonight. So that'll be interesting to see. So moving on, Jake. So we're kind of looking at going away from the Suns a little bit and going to kind of the league in general. Who did you have as kind of like surprises and disappointments for this season? Either players or teams, wherever you kind of want to go, mate.
Well, disappointment, the Suns. But
that's one down. Done.
Exactly. You want me to move away from that? Let's start with surprises. Cleveland Cavaliers. To my knowledge, I'm not following the team a ton, but the team's not really different. They still have Jared Allen, Mobley, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Isaac Okoro. They basically brought back the same, starting five. They've changed out some role players a little bit, but that's about it. But the new coach has them all buying into the system, and they're leading the league right now. I would not have. I thought that they were good last year. I thought they were going to make some noise. They really didn't at the time. But I've been very impressed. I mean, 36-9 as I pull it up, 5-5 in the last 10. So they were 31-4 10 games ago. Just tearing up the league. So that was probably my biggest surprise. The other one, they got bit by the injury bug, but prior to that, the Orlando Magic. Now, I don't know if it's just because as a Phoenix Suns fan, I'm like programmed to be like, oh, the little team that couldn't dang near did. That to me for the Eastern Conference, that's always the Orlando Magic. Orlando is kind of another one of those like, is it a destination city? It's not Miami. You don't have the beach. It's like Central Florida. It's like interior Florida.
Yeah.
Most people don't like that part of Florida. The only reason they go there is because Universal Studios is there and Disney World's there. That's the draw to going to Orlando. It's not New York. It's not Brooklyn. You don't have the bright lights. LA. It's not something like that. It's better weather than like Milwaukee. To have kind of what they've put together with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, and they just did it the slow way. I mean, it's just a lot of years of being bad and building something. It's kind of Oklahoma City Thunder-esque. They were hot at the start, obviously losing two of their best players for a long period of time slowed them down, but that was kind of fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're starting to get them guys back now. So maybe a team to kind of watch out for the, after the All-Star break and see if they can kind of get rolling again. But I don't think there's going to be anybody who's kind of a high seed hoping that they get to see Orlando round one. I don't think they're not going to enjoy that, are they? Do you know what I mean? So
that's a puncher's chance plus right there. Like, they might not just need to get lucky; they might just beat you. Exactly right. So I think that's going to be an interesting team to watch. Biggest disappointments. I'm probably going to go with an obvious one here. It's got to be the Philadelphia 76ers. My co-host Hamo from Suns Planet was like, doesn't matter that they're getting Paul George. Paul George is washed. And I'm like, he's always got these takes like LeBron James, more like idiot James, not even a good player. It's like, dude, he's amazing. Okay, even I can admit he's one of the greatest to ever do it.
When he was on my pod, he went on a rant about Jason Tatum for about 5 minutes, and it was just glorious. Like, shout out to Ramo, man. I hope he comes back soon.
He can take exactly. He could be like Nikola Jokic. I mean, the guy's so fat, he's even a player in this league. I mean, like, he will have these takes that are just like, are you watching this sport at all? But like, it's good. It's good content. I'll give him that. And maybe he was right about Paul George. I don't know. I don't think he's washed, but when I saw Paul George going to team up with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, I didn't think the 76ers were overnight contenders, but I thought, okay, in the East, you got Boston, and really I thought the field was going to be wide open. I didn't think the Cavs were going to be as good as they are. I didn't think the Magic were going to be as good as they are. I thought the Bucks still kind of had a lot of things to figure out, and I really don't buy into the New York Knicks. And they're doing, I'll put it this way, I think they're doing better than I thought, worse than what the league thought right now in New York, because they need something inside. But so I would say though the 76ers right now are not 10th, they're what?
11th right now.
Oh gosh, 17-27. They've won 39% of the games.
I feel sorry for Nick Nurse. The man looks like he's aged 10 years.
Exactly.
It's like
imagine just having to work. It's got to be like, I don't know. It's got to be like being like a Russian scientist sometimes to be like Nick Nurse. Like you show up to work, you're like, we're going to do great things today. And then you turn and somebody's like, yeah, the computers are broken still. You're like, God dang it. Is anything going to work in this town? Like you've got some great skill sets and just nothing is ever available when you need it to be. That's the 76ers right now. Like Joel Embiid, watching him in the Olympics, that was kind of interesting to watch. Like, I still remember we were talking to Izzy from the Suns France podcast, and they're just like, you can keep Joel Embiid. We don't need him on our French national team. And then I think, is he from Cameroon?
Yes.
Yeah. And Cameroon's like, we're good. He can play for Team USA. And we started him a little bit, but like he's breaking down, man. It's sad to see. It's starting to feel like Brandon Roy-esque. There's an old throwback name from the Portland Trailblazers days of just like what could have been with this team.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be. Joel Embiid cannot get healthy, man. And it's like Kawhi Leonard too. You play him for 28 minutes and you just hope to God you don't have to rest him the next 3 days or 3 games. Joel Embiid.
Once your knees have gone, Jake, there's no secret sauce to making it better.
No.
The knees have gone. The knees have gone. Into it. There's no getting around it.
Well, and this isn't the 90s or early 2000s basketball where you set a big man on the low block and he bounces it and rolls his shoulder into somebody and pushes them out of the way. Joel Embiid's game is I will shoot a three, I will take somebody off the dribble, I will dish it, I will if you want him to be just plant in the post, he might extend his career a year or two. But at this point, and Paul George was never the picture of health, but his shooting efficiency, wow.
Yeah.
That might be the first thing the NBA 2K game has ever called. Like, if you've ever acquired Paul George in your game, you're like, oh, I got Paul George on my team. Why is he shooting 35% from the field? This is an all-star. Yeah. Paul George is just not hitting anything right now. Tyrese Maxey. And they had the kind of the runaway, or at least the leader rookie of the year candidate. And was it McCain? Was his name?
Yeah, he got injured again. There's another one, so...
Yeah. If I'm a 76ers fan, it's what's his name? Yabasule. That's been the bright spot of the team right now.
Very true, mate. Yeah, very true. I mean, I think sometimes people forget how long Paul George has been in the league. Like, Paul George has been in the league like 14, 15 years. He's been in the league a long time, man. You
go back to those 70, Miami Heat versus the Indiana Pacers.
Oh,
and speaking of, like, we were talking about the Mavericks with Eric Dampier and Diop. Roy Hibbert would do nothing and then show up and just start like dismantling the Miami Heat because Chris Bosh is like, what do you want me to do with this man? We do not have a center that can defend him. And they would just throw it into him. But I remember, Paul George and the Pacers were always just, in my mind, one healthy Danny Granger away. But I think he was always injured during those runs. And then eventually he like disappeared from the league shortly after that.
It was done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens with players, doesn't it? Like you say, Brandon Roy, classic example, man. Sometimes you wake up one day and it's over almost, which is real shame.
And it happens. I mean, Greg Oden, going back to the Blazers too. I mean, there are some players. At least Brandon Roy had his moments. Oden never got going, really. I mean, from his time in the league. But yeah, there's just some of those players that just, I don't know if their body just betrays them a little bit and just never gets better.
Yeah.
So that's the tough thing.
Not everybody's LeBron, are they, mate? Where they just never get hurt. They've never had, and they just play for years on years and years. And that's not the rule. That's the exception, isn't it? Like sometimes players still only have 10, 12 year careers. They're not playing till year 20, 21. That doesn't happen as much. You know
what that reminds me of too is I've seen some interviews with Steve Nash over the years, and especially recently. And they said, what would you do differently if you could? And he said, I would have taken care of my body better. And of course, everyone remembers Steve, especially during his Suns days, when he would get subbed out, he'd go lay down on the court and put a towel behind his head because he would have so much low back pain that if he sat. Like I get a little bit it's like SI joint pain, but basically just like a numbness falls down your leg a little bit and across your hips.
Yeah.
And so, I'll then, like he said, I want to take care of myself better. I remember he was real big on like eating right and that kind of stuff. And I always just assume all these NBA players in today's era, like personal chef, nutritionist, physical therapist, like all personally in-house. Maybe that's only like the Devin Booker type money makers, not the guys on minimum contracts. They're probably not dishing that out, but maybe, I don't know. But I remember always hearing LeBron James spends $1 million in the off season to maintain his body. And I'm like, I spend about $30 at the gym every month to maintain this body. So I imagine what I could look like with $1 million of, but no, it makes you wonder, like, is everyone trying to take care of themselves as well as they should? I'm not going to second guess. I have no idea, like on somebody like a Joel Embiid. I don't think there's any amount of like off-season work that he could have done that's going to like save his knees or like help him, do better. But that's what you see all the time, and with especially older athletes. It's just, can they get just a little bit more, extend their windows of greatness a little bit longer? Not everyone's like LeBron. You're right. And not everyone's got the money, to spend on either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, them older guys trying to squeeze just a little couple more years out of the career. Like Butler right now, Jimmy's not in his prime really. He's coming maybe towards the end of his prime, if not already. So
I expect this is going to be his last, whatever he ends up getting in this next contract. That's his last big contract. A lot of these guys, once they're done on a big contract like that, I think they're done. I don't think they're too interested at that point in doing like, okay, I'll take like a $2.5 million, let's see what I can do. They're just like, I've made my money, I'm done.
No, they make way more in endorsements and stuff, don't they? They still want the max money.
Exactly, yeah.
They do. I suppose they do earn it, don't they, with what they go through and stuff. It's a way of life. It's not just turning up to a game now, is it? It's a way of life, and how you live day to day as well, isn't it? Like you say, personal chef and all that, massage.
I think I could give it a shot. I think I could give it a shot.
I think you might be all right. Ice
like,
chambers and whatever.
I remember there was some celebrity here in the U.S. once that was like, people don't know how hard it is to be me. Everyone's always asking me for autographs and all this stuff, and I'm like, give me your $50 million. I will let you know if I can put up with somebody asking me for autographs on occasion.
It's the price of fame, Jake. It's the price of fame.
That's right. It's so, it's that old Arnold Schwarzenegger quote, money doesn't buy happiness. I had $50 million. Now I have 55 and I'm just as happy.
Absolutely. The great philosopher, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Absolutely. So the last kind of topic before we head out, we've done an hour already, Jake. You're
an easy guy to talk to, especially when I'm just complaining about my team.
That's what I'm here for, mate. That's what I'm here to be
this is like therapy for me, right? Yeah.
It
usually I'm a co-host and they're like, Jake, keep it together, at least for the duration of the show. I can just throw all this at you and just be, what is wrong with my team?
The roles are reversed, my friend. The roles are reversed. You can just carry on and do whatever. But obviously, as you said, you're a co-host of Sun's Planet podcast. So if nobody knows where that is, go check it out on YouTube and also in podcast form as well. Usually live every Saturday, usually around 4:30 GMT. How's Sun's Planet going, Jake? And what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, well, so we're in our second season now, and we've undergone a lot of changes, a lot of different co-hosts, but it happens when you're kind of just getting a feel for things. And we've got some cool stuff coming down the pike. I think my co-host right now, Kevin Salute from the Philippines, as Hamo's taking a little bit of a leave of absence. But the whole idea behind Sun's Planet was, like myself, growing up in Iowa. I'm nowhere near Arizona. We don't border it. It's a long flight. It's it's a distance. It would be like if you were a diehard fan of like a Munich team, and people would be like, "Why Munich? You live in the UK. Just pick something local." That was me. Like I just picked something far from me, and I was like, "That's my team." Then I thought, I wonder how many other Suns fans out there do something like that, and so I found out there's a lot of us. There's you in the UK. You've been on the show. We've had Suns fans from France on, Spain. We've gone to Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile. We've gone to India, Australia, Singapore, Philippines. Let me see. Kenya. And
Canada. You say Canada?
Germany. Oh, we did the German episode.
Yeah.
But that we don't speak about anymore because I played the wrong national anthem, apparently. We've been to Belgium. We've been to Canada. So we've been all over, and we're connecting Suns fans from all around this planet on Suns Planet podcast. And then, we talk about the games each week. And obviously it's been pretty disappointing to go in each week. But every Saturday we get up and we try and put together some quality content. And I guess the new word is we got a new logo, and we're gonna have a new intro, because I believe what was the feedback I got? The intro music sounded like Transformers having sex, and so I was told we need to change that or something. I don't know. I know electronic music is bigger in Europe, Matt. I thought everyone was going to like the synthwave music I was going for. Not as hot in the U.S. They asked me to tweak that a little bit. So we're going to unleash some new stuff here. It's to lift our own spirits. If this team can't do it, we got to do it ourselves. That's the way we're looking at it.
Absolutely. And you have different segments, the boom boom room, stuff.
Yeah, no, we try and keep it fresh. Some of the best like podcasts, radio things I listen to are ones that you kind of get used to the segments. You get used to what we call the drops. Suns Jam is great with the drops. They want to talk about Booker. They talk about, am I allowed to curse on this one? Big Dick
Absolutely.
Book. They want to talk, so I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then there was a American football podcast I listened to called The Fantasy Footballers. Huge production value. I'm never going to match anything like that. But they've got like all these segments, all these kind of like, I don't want to say it's annoying because I love it, but like it's like that morning radio show that people listen to at like 6, 7 a.m. and where they play way too many loud sounds. You're like, guys, seriously, I haven't had coffee yet. But it's kind of things like that kind of make you feel like, oh, I like it when they play that. I'm a part of this community. Like what was that drop? Like, for example, we took a classic movie like The Ghostbusters and we put Bull to it. So instead of like, oh, it can't be, it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. No, it's Bull. And he goes running between the skyscrapers of New York.
Love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. Who comes up with these ideas for these? Is it a group? Is it a team effort like? Or what?
100% it's a team effort. Unfortunately, a lot of it comes from the twisted mind that can only exist between my 2 ears. But we've got some great producers. Josh and John Voida of Suns Jam have helped us out in the past. And then I kind of put just like, as I mentioned, I'm a millennial, so I put random video clips together. Like, for example, I used a wrestling clip lately because it just reminds me of this team. And it was when there was these two wrestlers, and I'm blanking on their names now, but one of them's Big Cass. And Big Cass, taunts his opponents by saying, "There's only one word to describe you, and I'm going to spell it out: SAWFT, soft." And that's exactly what this team has been playing like. It is the most like, "Don't touch me, ow!" Finesse shot in. There we go. That's it's tough. It's tough to watch. Especially when you watch somebody like a Giannis just blaze through defenders. But we're a soft team right now in Phoenix.
Yeah, he does that to everybody, so I won't be that worried about that.
That's a good point.
But no, that's good, man. But keep doing the pod, mates. It's always enjoyable. I tune in when I can. Sometimes when I'm at work, I have to go on my phone and duck in and out and just leave. Hey, guys, how you doing? And then duck out again.
I'm totally working right now.
Yeah. I am. I'm on my break. But no, keep doing it, mate, because it's always enjoyable seeing the different fans from all over the world and stuff.
You know what's funny? I was just going to say, that's actually, so there's a lot of sports content out there in general, and we get that. So we're fighting over crowded airwaves for anyone's time.
Absolutely.
And if you're a Suns fan, you still got a variety of stuff you can watch. You can watch PHNX, you can watch Suns Jam, you can watch the Timeline. I think Fanning the Flames. All these ones are out there.
And
so how could we kind of make our mark, do something a little bit different? That's what we wanted to do. I was a big fan of Anthony Bourdain's show, No Reservations. He also did one, I think, called Parts Unknown on CNN.
Yes,
but he was like this food critic traveler guy that would go to different places. And it wasn't always like, oh, now I'm having pasta. Pasta is made this way. Like it was, I'm having this pasta. Let me tell you what it is. But also I'm going to talk like culture, politics, religion, everything with the people here locally. And so that's kind of what we've tried to do. Like we've discussed, that's why I'm drinking a Samuel Smith's right now. I'm on a UK podcast, but everyone we've had on, we're like, what do you drink? What do you eat? What's the country about? Where should we go if we ever visited there? And, it's kind of, I don't know. It's like taking a little miniature vacation is the way I look at it. Anthony Bourdain, if he was a Suns fan, I don't know. I used to actually, I don't know. Well, it's just kind of like a date idea. But one fun thing, I'll give you a pro tip because we're coming up to Valentine's Day. Are you going to celebrate Valentine's Day, Ben? I should ask you.
Nah, well, I usually don't bother, mate. No.
Well, that's all right. You got a couple weeks to make that decision. You can stop down to the pub and see if there's just some last sip. But one thing that I found that was like a great idea is back when I was bartending, and I saw it from this other bartender. But like, especially people in our 20s and 30s, we probably don't have a ton of money to be like, oh, where I just came back from the Maldives, like, oh, as one does. But we called it like a passport drink session. And we were like, hey, have you had tequila from Mexico? Or have you had this red wine from Australia? Or have you had, Sauvignon Blanc, white wine from New Zealand? And you and your partner are kind of sitting there and you're tasting different drinks. You're reading the back of the bottle. It would be amazing if we went to New Zealand. I know, I love Lord of the Rings. What? Like, that's what you associated with it? But no, it's just kind of like, I call it like fun little mini vacations. You learn about a place, the culture and the people, and you get to talk about your sons along the way. That's what we've tried to merge, is that passport feeling with our favorite sports team.
That's good, man. Yeah, it's awesome, mate. Yeah. So have you got somebody lined up as your next?
It's funny. We were just talking about that. JC, thank you, JC, if you're watching this. But he has connected me with a Suns fan who I'm told speaks very good English from Argentina.
Yes.
I'm very excited about, because I love red wine, and Malbec I've got a weak spot for. And
yes, absolutely.
And so I am very excited to open up a bottle and talk a little bit of Phoenix Suns basketball with somebody from Argentina. But we're open to anywhere. There was one guy, we were very close to getting this guy that runs the Suns Italy account. And I reached out to him and he said, absolutely, would love to do it. I speak English, would love to talk about the Suns. And then I asked him when he was available, and he kind of went dormant on me. Then I saw he changed his Twitter account to Luka Doncic superfan, and his picture became a picture of Luka. And then I messaged him again. I'm like, are you sure you're still a Suns fan? And then I saw that he changed it back to Suns Italy, and I'm like, maybe we'll come back for you, Italy. You guys just can't seem to pick a side.
We'll put you on ice, mate.
We're going to go somewhere else first. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still in the business of anywhere else, but yeah.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know.
Exactly, yeah. You got to show a little bit of consistency here, and we'll bring you on the show.
Absolutely. I thought I got a Scottish Suns fan for you, man, on Hook Jake, but unfortunately he's a bit reluctant to do any podcasts and stuff, which is a bit of a shame, really, because he's a really big Suns fan, which is a shame. Like, Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: I still owe you, and I believe it's Gregory. Is Greg, Luke, or maybe Luke Godfrey?
Oh yeah, Gio.
I think that's who it was. But they connected me, sort of, or at least gave me the exact route to go. But we had a Suns Planet Visits Ireland by having Suns great Pat Burke on. And I tell you what, I never wanted a glass of Guinness more in my life after talking to that man. He made it sound like it's a gift from the gods. So you guys are definitely spoiled there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Out there in the UK. Well, I'll call it what, the Greater Isles. I'll throw a leash around. No, I wouldn't throw a leash around that. You can't say that about Ireland.
I was going to say that.
In the general location of them, where you guys are, you guys have mastered whiskey, scotch, and beer making.
Yes. It's probably one of the best exports, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. If Trump tries to throw a 25% tariff on you guys, trust me, I am rebelling out here. That is going to be not allowed.
Absolutely. Just to clear up the, when you had the guest, we had Pat on and stuff. Mm-hmm. It was Matt from Go On My Sons who
that's right.
kind of pointed you in that direction, Matt. So I want to clear that up.
Thank you. Yes.
I did ask Matt, and he kind of told me, and then I told you. So it was
the connection of you guys for sure. That's where I knew it was coming from.
I mean, it was. It was quite an hour. That was. It was quite an hour.
I wonder how Matt thought of it, because I still remember talking with Pat Burke like before we started the show. This is like inside baseball here, but I was like, okay, so this is how we do the show. We talk about the games, break them each one down, but we're only going to do that for about half the show. Then we're going to turn into your son's career and talk about the NBA in general. And he said, sounds good. Looking forward to it. Absolutely. Like 5 minutes in, I'm breaking down the scores of the game. We're getting ready to dive in.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's start first with our guest, Pat. What do you think? And he goes, I don't watch the games anymore. Next question. And I was like, And
Oh.
the guys still rib me to this day. They're just like, the look you shot into the camera. I'm just like, what do I do now to fill the rest of this hour? Like 5 minutes in, 55 minutes to go, and I'm like,
I remember asking him a question because
Suns, Pat, you've got the floor.
yeah, because I was on that pod as well, and
No, that's right. Yeah.
You said to us, oh, we'll have some questions for Pat.
Mhm.
And I wrote a couple down, and I got one. I thought, oh, this will be really good. I was like, did you feel there was a kind of pressure being the first kind of Irish player in the NBA and stuff? And he's like, oh, I didn't find that out until I finished playing. I'm just like, I'm done, mate. I'm out. I'm like, that's it. Like,
there was that. And there was, oh gosh, what else did he say that was just kind of like, it threw us.
When he started talking about D'Antoni,
yes,
he hardly spoke to D'Antoni, and I'm just like,
it's like, dude, we are Suns fans. We love the seconds or less teams.
Oh,
you guys came so close to competing for titles. You're a fan favorite. All you have to do is be like, woo, Suns. And instead, credit where credit's due, he gave us a little bit of meat to chew on. He's like,
he absolutely did.
I don't think they knew we were even on the team. And I'm just like, Pat, no. I felt bad. I was like, D'Antoni. I mean, that was always my knock on Coach D'Antoni was like, he'd run like 7-man rotations.
Yeah.
You're like, of course they're going to be tired, Mike. God, go to 9 like anyone else. Pat Burke would come in only if there was a blowout, and that's why he would get frustrated. He's like, I'm sorry, I gave up like a career in Europe for this. Okay.
Never changed.
No, it was a
changed.
Fun episode. And that's what I like about my podcast is that I feel like people can go back, especially those Suns Planet Visits episodes where we, name a country. You go to the second half of those episodes, you learn something new every time.
Absolutely. That's it. That's your unique selling point, isn't it, man? It's
I try.
Kind of learn a little.
As you can tell, I'm really trying to sell that aspect of it. Yeah.
No, that's it, mate. That's like you say. You've got to differentiate yourself from everybody else, haven't you? Bringing something new into it and stuff. And that's
well,
that's
we don't have access to the team. I don't go see them practice. Some of the podcasts have that. Like Gerald Bourget of PHNX, he goes and gets you a practice report. He tells you what the team is thinking. I can tell you what I'm thinking that the Suns are thinking, and that's just not going to be quite as good. So our kind of connection, like with Kevin out in the Philippines, Hamo when he was with us in Australia, is just bringing in different cultural perspectives and just, that kind of a global barbershop of where anyone can walk in and be like, hey, I'm a Suns fan. Oh, cool. So am I. Oh, okay. Awesome. Because there's probably just not a lot locally wherever we are.
Absolutely. There's not many of us, but we're a passionate bunch. There we go. That's
we live and die way too many times in a season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all we've got time for, Jake. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up before we head out.
Well, as disappointed as I am, I will say this: I'm always counting. I'm always hoping the Suns win. Prove me wrong. I will eat my words. I promise. I apologized to Bull last year. Then I immediately crapped on him again this year. But I apologized last year. He was better than I thought he was, which is still not good.
Yeah.
Go Suns.
Absolutely. Do you want to let people know where they can find you on the socials and where they can find the podcast, dude?
Yeah. So just put the @ symbol next to my name, @FallenFounder or @Suns Planet Podcast. You'll find both. And as Matt, you said, we go live every Saturday. And some things happen there that we wish we could take back. Like we wish we could have researched which German national anthem, and we wish we knew that apparently they skip a verse now that is still a part of the song, but they just pick and choose verses. Who else does that? Only you, Deutschland. And I appreciate you for hanging in there with
me. Thanks a lot for coming on, dude. We finally did it. Thanks a lot for taking the time, mate. It's much appreciated, mate. You're welcome back anytime. On the... Yeah, man. You're welcome back anytime, mate. So let me know if you want to come, moan about the Suns again. And hopefully, like you say, the tide might turn as the season goes on. We'll see if they make any moves at the trade deadline and stuff. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much. But I'm Matt at Post323. You'll be able to rewatch this on YouTube later this evening, guys. And also you'll be able to listen to it on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. So don't forget to check out for that. So thanks very much for tuning in, guys. We'll be back again with another episode very soon. So that's all we have for today. So take care, guys.